In this video, I will introduce a concept, time value of money. This concept is a very important concept in finance. It's the foundation of many financial theories. I will cover three parts. First, I will introduce the concept. Second, I will briefly explain why money has what we call a time value. Last, I will talk about the important implications. So first, the concept. Now, what is time value of money? I think the easiest way to understand the concept is that the amount of money once invested properly will increase over time. Now, why the amount is going to increase over time? We can look at the amount of money from, for example, the owner's perspective. Now, I will use this concept. Now, this is what we call a timeline. The left end of the timeline is time zero. Normally, it means today. And then we have tick marks. Now, in this example, I have a tick mark 1. It represents one period in the future. Now, suppose we have an investor. The investor has $100. So that is the owner of the money. Now, with $100, the owner can use the money to buy valuable things, to enjoy, to consume the merchandise, the goods, services. So this $100 will bring some kind of satisfaction. Now, suppose the owner decides to invest the money. Now, by investing, we mean the owner is going to put the money, give the money to another investor, the user of the money. Now, in this investment process, the owner is willing to give up the use of this $100 today. The owner is going to give up the current immediate consumption and is willing to postpone the consumption until one period in the future. Now, of course, this is a sacrifice. That means the owner requires a compensation. The compensation is represented in this example by the extra money received in the future. Now, in this example, for example, at the end of the first period, the owner, in order to cover his sacrifice, requires $10 more back. So this extra $10 is a compensation. So as you can see, the amount of money invested here is going to increase over time because the owner wants to receive more money in order to cover his sacrifice. In this example, the extra $10 represents 10% of the original $100. So we call it the growth rate of money. Sometimes it is called interest rate. So in this example, the owner wants the money to grow by 10% every period to cover his sacrifice. Now, we can use common sense. The longer the owner is going to allow other people to use the money, the longer the owner has to postpone the consumption, the more sacrifice the owner will accept, the more money the owner requires to be paid in the future. So the amount of payment which comes out of this $100 is going to increase over time. So that is the time value of money. In other words, the amount of money will increase over time because the owner requires a compensation. The longer the money will be invested, the more money the owner is going to receive, the higher the amount in the future. So that is the reason money is going to grow over time. Now, what's the implication? Implication is, if we look at the two numbers from the owner's perspective, the two numbers are the same. The owner can choose to use the money today. The amount to be used is $100. Or the owner is willing to sacrifice, to postpone the consumption for one period. Now, in order to postpone the consumption, the owner requires extra $10. In other words, to the owner, the $10 will cover the sacrifice. So the benefit the owner is going to receive from this $110 in year one should be the same as the $100 that can be used today. So from the owner's perspective, the $100 is the same as the $110 to be received in the future at the end of the first period. Another implication is that here, for example, I add another timeline. Now we have this 100 at the end of the first period, and then we have in the first timeline we have this 100 at the beginning of the period. Now these two $100 bills are different. These two $100 bills are different. Why they are different? Because if we look at the first timeline, this $100 is the same as $110 at the end of the first period. Now, this $110 is more than the $100 on the second timeline. That means we cannot simply directly compare amount of money over time. For example, the dollar today is different from the same dollar at the end of the first period. Actually, the dollar today is more valuable than the same $1 in the future at the end of the first period. So that is very important. It is very important for you to remember, in finance, money can grow over time. So the same amounts at different times are different. They cannot be compared directly. In order to compare the value of money, we have to adjust the amount of money to the same period and then do a comparison. For example, if we want to compare the $100 today with the $100 at the end of the first period, the correct way is to move this $100 over time to the first period. Now, given the growth rate of 10%, we know this $100 is the same as $110 at the end of year one. And then we compare the 110 with the 100. Now we know this 110 is more than $100 at the end of period. And since this $110 is the same as the $100 at the beginning of the period, we can reach the conclusion that the 100 today is more valuable than the $100 in the future. Now, the same reason, the $100 at the end of year one is worth less than the $100 today. So that's the important implication.